The Travel Transformation Podcast is proud to be partnered with Give the Goodness Global, an amazing global outreach project helping families in need all over Southeast Asia and beyond. Please check them out at Instagram.com/Give the Goodness Global today. And now on to the podcast episode.
Welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast, where we talk all things travel and all things transformation, exploring the life-changing potential of solo travel, intentional travel, and location-independent working. Whether you're an aspiring digital nomad or simply wish to boost your confidence through epic travel experiences, I'm here to motivate and inspire you to go after all your wildest dreams. I'm Jessica Grace Coleman, author, certified travel coach, founder of the Travel Transformation Company, and your host for the Travel Transformation Podcast. Travel changed my life. Now let's change yours. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast, the podcast where we talk all things travel and all things transformation. Today I'm bringing you another interview with me that I did recently with Steph from the Butterfly Princess Show. Now this isn't a podcast, it's a YouTube channel, but I asked Steph if I could take the audio from our conversation to put on my podcast. Steph is like an interviewing machine. She often interviews 3 or 4 people in a day from all backgrounds and all walks of life, and she just has a nice casual chat with them. She's also interviewed a couple of other travel coaches who I've had on the podcast, 2 Claires, Claire Pritchard and Claire Burt, so please go and check out her YouTube channel. It's called The Butterfly Princess Show, and I'll put the link in the show notes as well. In this interview, we talk about travel coaching, intentional travel, the transformative power of solo travel and staying in colivings, my Flip the Script on Fear challenge that I did, my fiction and non-fiction books, and more. I want to say thanks again for Steph for having me on her channel, and here's the interview.
So hi everyone, good morning and welcome to another episode of the Butterfly Princess Show. My first guest today is Jess Coleman, who is a travel transformation coach. So this chat today is going to be all about what a travel transformation coach is and everything about travel. Hi Jess, thanks for joining us today. So could you tell us a bit about what you do as a travel transformation coach and author?
Yeah, hi. So thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I am a travel transformation coach. I run the Travel Transformation Company, which is where all my stuff goes. So I'm an author, like you said. My last book that I did is called Intentional Travel Transformation. I have a podcast called the Travel Transformation Podcast. I do online courses. I have an online education portal called the Travel Transformation Academy. So I've got lots of stuff going on. I also offer one-on-one coaching, but that's not my main focus. My main focus is basically inspire and motivate people to go traveling, and in particular, intentional traveling. So going traveling with an intention to overcome a fear or a limiting belief, to boost your confidence, something like that. Basically, that's exactly what I did. I wrote my story in my book, if anyone wants to read it. But basically, I'm a very quiet introvert. I've always been very shy. I've never liked being the center of attention. I've always hated presentations and all that kind of stuff. So when I found out about co-livings, where lots of digital nomads live together in a house and share knowledge and do workshops and things like that, I thought it would be a great way to push myself outside my comfort zone, force myself to do like a skill share, like a workshop, and basically throw myself into every professional event and social event they had going, which is what I did for about 2 months last spring. But it was mainly the month in the co-living house in the Basque Country in Spain that just completely transformed me. It transformed the way I looked at myself. It transformed the stories I told myself, like, I can't do that because I'm too shy. I can't do that. I'm too introverted, that kind of thing. And by the end of it, I felt like a completely different person. So I thought, if I can do that in a month, like, what else can I do? And also, how else can I help other people do it? So that's my focus now, is to educate people on the different types of travel they can go on, encourage people to do intentional travel, encourage people to do solo travel, because nothing boosts your confidence more than solo travel. And yeah, also help people use like travel principles to boost their confidence and overcome fears and limiting beliefs in their sort of normal daily lives as well.
So obviously from what you're telling, so obviously you've travelled to many different places in the world, like you mentioned Spain. So what has been your favourite destination to travel to?
Ooh, that's a tough question. The thing that immediately comes to mind is I did a year abroad when I went to university in Colorado, at the University of Colorado. And that was one of the best years of my life. I felt like I was in a movie the entire time, one of those like American college movies with all the like sororities and the brass bands and the like football games and all that kind of stuff. So that was amazing. So that was in Boulder, Colorado, near Denver, and beautiful mountains and everything. So that will always have a special place in my heart. But I've just come back from Switzerland and that was absolutely beautiful. The lakes, the mountains. I'm such a sort of lake and mountain kind of person. It was absolutely stunning. The color of the water, all the turquoise, just incredible. Spain also has a special place in my heart because that's where I started my whole travel transformation journey. And I went back there this spring as well to the same house with the same company. And it was just as amazing as last year. So, yeah.
I just want to interrupt this awesome podcast episode for a moment to tell you about Write Your Life, the ultimate life hack for achieving your dreams by Jessica Grace Coleman, a book that teaches you how to design your dream life and then go live it. Life is what you make it. Life is what you write it to be. And you can write whatever you want. Let me show you how. The Write Your Life method gives you all the tools and techniques you need to identify your ambitions, plan your goals, and ultimately achieve all your wildest dreams, all while having fun and getting creative. And you don't need to be a writer to benefit from the Write Your Life method. This book can help anyone, anywhere design their ultimate dream lifestyle. Get it now from Amazon or head to www.traveltransformationcoach.com/books. You'll also get a digital copy completely free when you sign up to the Flip the Script Academy at traveltransformationcoach.com/academy, where we teach you that life is short. So let's make sure it's nothing short of amazing. And now let's get back to the Travel Transformation Podcast.
So, like, when you said you share a house with, like, the solo travellers like yourself, so, like, what is that experience like, sharing a house with, or, like, strangers that you haven't met before, but I suppose you get to know the more people on the journey because you're sharing a living space with them?
Yeah, so I've been to a few co-livings. This one I just went to, company is called Sun & Co, and they have a house in Javier, Spain, and that's sort of more in a town. There's lots to do. The pop-up they do every year is a month in the Basque Country, and it's in the countryside. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's this amazing big Airbnb. So like with a pool and everything. For one thing, I would never be able to stay there on my own because I'd need like 20 people to make the cost work out, effective. So that's amazing, just staying in houses that you would never normally be able to stay in. But yeah, because we were sort of in the middle of nowhere, you do kind of do everything together. You bond together. We have like family dinners every night. So we have cooking teams, and we're all working. So we work during the day, although some people are on different time zones, so they might be working in the evening and everything. And then we do social events together as well. We do like skill shares, like I say, and you just get really close to these people. Like I've been living with people for 2 weeks and I feel like I've known them my entire life, and you make friends for life as well because you had this such unique experience together and you share all these amazing things and you learn so much. There were people there from, like the US, from India, from China, from all over Europe, from all different countries you can imagine. And just hearing them talk about their daily lives and what their upbringing was like and all that kind of stuff, you learn so much. And then you learn like actual skills and things from, what they do in their business and what they want to share with others and things like that. So it's just amazing. You learn so much about the world and you learn so much about yourself and you come out with it with friends for life. So I would highly recommend it to anyone. And like you say, it is a bit daunting going there when you don't know anyone. Last year in particular, when it was my first, I had done a sort of co-living before, but that was a few years ago, pre-pandemic and everything. And now I got there, I was very, very scared, like as a shy introvert, meeting new people. And it's just not a naturally easy thing for me to do, especially when you're living with them. But you get over that quickly because everyone's so nice. All the people in co-livings, they're always open people, they're not prejudiced. Like it's just the type of people these places attract. They're all very open-minded. So you're already immediately on the same wavelength with all these people when you get there, which helps. And yeah, when I went back this year, there were quite a few people who I met last year. So I felt totally comfortable. I knew the place I was going to. I knew a lot of the people there. And it just felt like sort of going back to like a second home. So it was really nice.
So, like, it's really interesting travelling because you get to experience different cultures of the country you're visiting or you're staying in. Because, like I've said before, I'm like a real history buff. So when I like to go and travel somewhere, I like to experience how the local people live and the history of that particular country. But it's a bit difficult for me because being a wheelchair user, obviously, so it's a bit difficult for me in that respect because not everywhere is accessible or we've not got the right transport. So by talking to people like you, it gives me, and like I really want to do like talk to people from excursions in the UK and abroad just to get a feel of like what it's like. So, like, what is it like to experience like different cultures? Really getting into the nitty gritty of the local community, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's always very interesting, obviously. And I do try and learn some of the language before I go to a place. But as I've mentioned before, if you're a digital nomad and you're going from country to country, there's just no way you can learn, like 3 or 4 languages before you go. So I do try. Then Google Translate is obviously a big help. So like you say, talking to the local people, you learn a lot. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really had massive culture shock. I think the biggest was when I went to Southeast Asia. I went to China and then I went to like Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia. And just the way people live is so different, but it's so refreshing to see as well. I mean, we went on like a river, like on a boat tour down the river in Vietnam, and it's like a floating village. People live on the river. So like everything they have, you have the houses floating, their schools are floating, their shops are floating, people go past on boats selling stuff. They had like a floating tennis court, like it's just like everything is just so different. It's just so eye-opening to see how people live in different ways. And when you're meeting people like travelers as well, it's so eye-opening to see how they live their lives as well. Like I know people who are constantly on the road, they don't have a base, they just go from one country to the next, co-living to co-living, and like that is their life, like that is normal to them. And it's just really opens your eyes to all the different kinds of lifestyles you can have, both from the people you meet in the places you go to and the travelers you meet on the way. And I think a lot of people talk about reverse culture shock more than culture shock. So they'll go to a country and it will be very, very different and they'll get used to it, especially if they're there for a long time. And then they'll go home and the culture shock happens then and they can't get back into their usual routine because they're so used to this other way of living. And I find that really interesting as well. So it happens a lot.
So what got you into like this sort of travel transformation? Because I know you said you're quite introverted, travel the world.
Yeah, so it was basically during the pandemic, and like a lot of people, I think they reevaluated their priorities. And I've always been into travel. I've loved traveling. And I've been self-employed since 2014. I have like an editing and proofreading business. And ever since then, I've wanted to do the whole thing where you put your stuff in storage and you go traveling and you just work from wherever. And I didn't get around to it till the start of last year. So it took me a while to get there. But basically, during the pandemic, I wanted to shake things up. I was sort of like stuck in a rut. A lot of people can identify with this, I'm sure. And I actually did a self-imposed challenge. I called it the Flip the Script on Fear challenge. And I did 30 days where I did one thing a day that either scared me or that I'd been putting off for some reason. But it wasn't just like things that scared me. It was things that I knew would take me to the next level in life or in business or anything, stuff I've been putting off because I've been too scared to do it. So I did that. I did loads of stuff around my business, social life and stuff. But the main thing was I finally decided to put my stuff in storage. I left my rental house. And I booked that co-living in Spain. That was one of the things I did on like one of the days in my challenge. And I basically just wanted to shake things up a bit. I didn't know it would change my entire life, my entire lifestyle. And then when I went to Spain and did this thing, I decided to write a book about it because I'm also an author. I do a lot of fiction, but I've recently got into nonfiction. And I'd write the book about it. I started some online courses. I started a podcast, which I'd wanted to do for years, but again, had been putting it off because I was too scared to do it. And it just kind of all fell into place. And then I found this online certification program for travel coaches. And I had not heard the term travel coach before. But that's basically what I was doing without even realizing it, sort of encouraging people to travel, telling them how they can travel different ways, and showing them how they can use travel as a tool to like transform their lives, basically. So it wasn't planned. I just fell into it, and it was the challenge that started it all off. And that was in December 2021, I think. Yeah.
So just two more things before we finish. Obviously about the books you've written. So you mentioned that you've written some non-fiction and fiction. You wrote a book about your time in Spain. So what sort of stories do you write?
So yeah, I started, I think it was 2012, I wrote my first novel, and that was always a goal of mine to write a novel. And I self-published them all on Amazon. So you can get them in ebook and you can get them on paperback. The first one is called The Former World. And yeah, they're basically young adult paranormal mystery novels. So very different to the stuff I do now. But I've kind of based the village that it's set in loosely on my home village and my hometown. So some people, like some local people, read it and they can recognize that I'm referring to like Stafford Castle, or like little bits in there that I've tried to sort of get in there. I love mysteries. I love detective stories. I love that kind of thing, murder mysteries. So yeah, I've done 5 books in that series. I've done some other like short stories, another novel. Then I did one called Write Your Life, which is what I wrote during the pandemic when I was getting really into all the self-development stuff. And that's about sort of planning your life goals by writing a fictional story with you as the main character, because we should be the main characters in our lives anyway, even if we don't feel like it sometimes. So that's a kind of fun thing of mixing self-development work and writing exercises to do goal setting, basically. And then, yeah, after that came the Intentional Travel Transformation, which is the story of my time last spring in Spain and France, solo traveling, living in co-livings, how I overcame my fears. And also there's a framework that other people can use to create their own travel transformation strategy if they want to do what I did. So yeah, I just love writing. So I'm sure I'll write another one soon.
Yes, of course. And I'm sure you sound like you've got like many interesting like little stories to tell as well. So lastly, the podcast. So what sort of people do you chat to on the podcast?
Yeah, so it's called the Travel Transformation Podcast, as you can see. And I do some solo episodes where I go through my past trips, where I talk about things I've learned, where I go into some self-development stuff. So it's all about travel, but it's also about transformation. So there's the self-development aspect there too. And then I have interviews with people I've met while traveling. So my travel buddies, people I've lived with in co-livings, because they're always really interesting to talk to. I've always been to lots of amazing places and done amazing things. And then people I've been meeting in the travel industry as well. So I've had a lot of travel coaches on there, people like travel agents. And yeah, just I've had some really interesting people on there. So great stories. And I really, really enjoy doing it. So yeah, hopefully I'll be doing that for a long time.
Of course. And Jess, I was wondering, because, like I'm into travel and stuff. So I was wondering if you could pass on my details to some of the people you know. Just so I can maybe invite them on to my show as well, because it'd be really interesting for me to talk to some of them people.
Oh yeah, definitely. I will definitely do that, because yeah, I've met some people with some amazing stories, so it'll be great to have on your show too. So yeah, definitely do that.
Well, thank you for your time, Jess. It's really appreciated, and thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Travel Transformation Podcast with me, Jessica Grace Coleman. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could please subscribe, rate and review, and spread the word, because it's my mission to help as many people as possible to flip the script on their lives and transform through travel. And remember, life is short, so let's make sure it's nothing short of amazing. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.